Test 1, 2, test 1, 2.
Stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Nick Reynolds, Steve Harness, and Cousin Brewski. The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Welcome to the podcast, one. Welcome to the podcast, all. Here we are, The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve. Alla Brewski, thanks for joining us, you bastard.
Yeah, here we are, there you are, and we all come together. I was looking at our map again recently, gentlemen. We got people all over this planet. Southern tip of South America. We got Israel. We got China. We got Australia. All over Europe. I mean,
China.
A little bit in Canada, too.
Hey, dude, I didn't tell Brewski what happened over the last week as far as our downloads. Going off the chain, dude. Our downloads last week spiked significantly. So thank you to those listeners who are picking up this radio orgy. Yeah. We love it.
We had a 60% spike in this past week, and it's sustained over several days. And we picked up new subscribers, people that actually click the follow button, which not everyone does on the podcast sites. And so I don't know where it came from. Perhaps one of our social media accounts that people are following out there. Maybe one of these podcast sites actually promoted us. I don't know what it is. Maybe just the momentum is kicking in. But yeah, downloads spiked significantly. So we appreciate that, listening audience, because I don't know which we're going to be able to hit the threshold first with. Either the social media stuff can get big enough, or we can start getting sponsorships, or right. The podcast if your downloads get a certain threshold. So we're social media was kicking the podcast ass on numbers, but now the podcast is gaining momentum. So
yeah. It was a slow burn on the podcast, but it seems to be making a little ground. So well, you're responsible for that. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Slow burn. We're like an STD yet again. A little slow burn goes on. Sometimes we get irritating, a little itchy, and sometimes we're fun, like go with it.
What's a fun STD, dude? I mean, do you know of one?
Well, you have fun getting it, I hope. So
that's right. Yeah,
or pustules. I don't know if you're into like popping pimples and stuff.
Oh, God, dude. On your genitalia?
Hey, why not? I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it. I'm just saying, my mom called me recently, was like, I have to admit, I've been watching pimple popping videos on YouTube. Oh, yeah. They're so fascinating.
A lot of people love those.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm onto a new guy, and I think I may have harnessed one of these, dude, but this is Dr. Foot. Okay, he cuts people's toenails, and most of them, I did not. Okay,
and please don't. I don't need my algorithm thinking that's why I don't watch pimple popping videos. You watch one, you're going to see a million of them. So,
dude, I'm going to send one of these to you, but these are mostly. This is why you want to watch them, okay? These are mostly senior citizens who can no longer cut their own toenails and don't have anyone taking care of them.
So it's a nightmare for you. Nick has a whole fetish about cutting his toenails. So.
And saving them. These fuckers, dude, are like 8-9 inches long and then start to curl, right? Oh. But they have so much bacteria built up in their toes and stuff that there's layers upon layers of dead skin with dirt in it. I mean, they're fascinating.
Can you imagine watching that age, Nick? Are you getting hard right now?
I wanted to cut one, dude. I was like, I want to do this.
Well, remember, someone went to medical school specifically to do that.
He is a podiatrist. I mean, he did. He studied a long time to know how to do that.
Yeah. I wonder that about certain doctors. Like, why did you, of all the parts of the body, you're going to specialize in feet or toenails or rectums? Or, I mean, like, why? Was it less competition? Maybe that's
it takes a village, dude. I mean, somebody's got to do it, right?
I swear with the proctologist, I swear it's just for one reason. So when someone says rectum, he can say, damn near killed him.
Damn near killed him. And drive a Ford Probe, right?
Just for a life of dad jokes, he chose that career. And by the way, a male gynecologist, what kind of woman goes to a male gynecologist? And how do you become a male gynecologist and not be some giant pervert?
Well, no, but gynecologists aren't just gynecologists. They're also obstetricians. So that they deliver babies, too.
Sure. Yeah. Even that's slightly weird, but actually doing a full-on vaginal exam, that's your chosen profession as a guy. I don't know how you don't end up on some list. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, dude, your father's a doctor, all right? Have you ever asked him the obvious question of, did you go into this because you like titties pop?
It's a fair point. My dad is a breast cancer specialist, and yeah, he deals with boobies for a profession. And I don't know. Somehow boobs seem less personal and invasive than hoo-has.
Sure.
I'm just drawing distinctions here. Or assholes. I mean,
but here's the thing, though, Steve. If you're a male gynecologist,
yeah.
You're not just looking at the vages of like hot chicks or anything like that. You know,
Right.
yeah, this is everybody's. I mean,
No, that's a good point. Because how does that not ruin vag for you? Seeing all of these varieties, and some of them are going to have infections and problems. Like, don't you want to keep some things joyful in your life?
And think about the meat curtains that you might get a look at on the regular, you know?
Right.
And like Brewski said, dude, they also deliver babies. I consider these men stepping up and taking for the team. They've ruined the joyful look of a vagina. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they specialize in it. I mean, I've told the story on the show before that it was traumatizing for me to watch my wife give birth to our 2 kids, in as much as like that used to be my playground. And now it's just got a whole horror story going on that I got to go do my thing after this. How do I undo what I've seen? So I can't imagine doing it for a living with not the person you love and care about, like your wife, like just strangers with yeast infections and floppy meat curtains.
Well, I will quote a respected, a wise man who once told us on this show, bitches get stitches.
That's wrong. Oh, thank you, Brewski. I appreciate being called a wise man.
Yes. I wasn't sure if you were going to own that comment, but yeah.
No, I mean, no, that's fine. It was a long time ago, dude. Come on.
All right. I mean, the origins of thing is tricky, and the origins of that was a traumatic experience for Nick's sister that he had a little fun with, but there's so many things in this world where you wonder about the origins and if it's appropriate to post on social media or use in your daily life.
Sometimes you use things by mistake, dude, and you don't even know when somebody says like, wow, you're an asshole, and be like, oh, I had no idea that that's offensive or where that came from. I don't know the history of every word, okay?
Right. That is a good point. So I stumbled on an article this week that it's interesting to me. It's basically it's a bunch of phrases that we all commonly use that actually have racist origins. And there's a couple of things here. Like I remember back in high school that we used to in a derogatory way on our basketball team call each other boy. If one of us was not playing, like, boy, get your game together. I never knew that boy had a racist connotation. I just thought we were insulting each other by saying you're a boy. You're not a teenager or a man, or so you're a boy. But turns out that's a racist thing.
Yeah.
That's very racist. You didn't know that. You didn't study that?
No. I don't know where I would have learned that.
I first heard about it watching the TV show Good Times in the 70s because somebody called the youngest child on that show, Michael, boy. And he would say, don't call me boy. Boy is a white racist word. And down south, they in particular, they use that a lot.
Well, it goes back to all of the slaves being called boy. What's the big movie? I can't think of the name at all right now about the black slave, and they called him boy all the way through. Roots. Thank you, Brewski.
With Kunta Kinte and that was LeVar Burton.
Yes. So you should never be calling anyone boy.
I just thought it was insulting to call a 17-year-old a boy. I didn't know there was racist origins. And by the way, when I was told that it was racist, no one else seemed surprised by it. So then I had the realization, wait a minute, all you assholes knew this was racist? And that's what we're calling each other?
Let me tell you that, my theory on all of this is, and this may be a nice way to set this up, because there's some things that you're going to say. I have a constant conversation with my brother around things that are, the racist to say or just not the right words to use. And we talk about language, and he often talks about intent, which is important to some degree. Yes. But when you're talking in front of people, you have to go into a heart with something that if I said something that really hurt you, whether it's racially or sexually or whatever, that if I say, oh, I didn't know that. I come with a good heart. Like I meant nothing by that. You have to, on the other side, be able to say, I appreciate that. And now right? We got to be able to teach each other.
Yeah. And is something racist, quote unquote, if you don't know it's racist and that's not the context you were using it in? I mean, I understand this list may educate some of us on the origins of it, but I don't know that I'm going to advocate that you stop using the phrase, because it could have a completely different meaning in this day and age than where it may have started in the 1700s, 1800s, 1920s, or whatever. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I remember being admonished in elementary school for using the word sucks. I said to the teacher, that sucks. And the teacher was like, you do not swear in my... I was like, sucks isn't a swear word. She's like, stop saying it.
That is so hard. I am going to say sucks. You're right. That used to be so looked down on.
There was another quick side note of origins of words that I never understood. Had to look it up. Years ago in radio, we used to get, when we were doing this talk show on regular radio in the early 2000s, we would get those weekly rundowns, or maybe not every week, but we'd get these memos from corporate, these are words you cannot say, the whole 7 deadly words thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was more than 7 words. And we would get these refreshers. It was a human resources sort of thing. And I remember one time the word scumbag was on the list of words we're not allowed to say on the radio.
Yeah.
And it was such a head scratcher of like scumbag. Like a scumbag is a bad person, a sleazy person, someone you can't trust. So why could I not call someone a scumbag? You guys remember this?
Yeah, I remember it. And we didn't know why. We didn't know why you couldn't say it. It was probably because somebody with a little financial power called and said, I don't like it when they say scumbag.
No, I remember I had to look at the origins because it was driving me crazy as to why I couldn't call somebody a scumbag on the public radio station. And it turns out in I think it was like the 40s or maybe into the 50s, in the Navy, a used condom, that you had already come in, was referred to as a scumbag.
That's right, dude. Who would have ever known that? Exactly. I mean, we wouldn't have known that.
So the lawyer's thing was, there's a sexual connotation, and it has to deal with excretory fluids, which was a big no-no in the FCC world. So, they told us we couldn't use the word scumbag because back in the 50s, it was a term for a used condom. But nobody knows that, and no one thinks of it that way anymore.
Can't believe that.
All right, so let's get to some of these things. So these are everyday phrases that have racist origins. The first one, I use this, and I hesitate to use this sometimes just because I feel like it's a completely antiquated reference. But
still today you use this?
Commonly, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think anyone probably knows the origins. I mean, we probably do, but certainly like my kids or something don't know. When you refer to the peanut gallery, I don't want to hear from the peanut gallery out there, There was it was Howdy Doody, I think, that they called the audience the peanut gallery, right?
The peanut gallery was the kids in the audience.
Yes. So, I commonly refer to like the peanut gallery is just the audience you don't want to hear from. And maybe because we're in radio, I'm like, I've heard enough from the peanut gallery. Okay, I don't want to hear it.
I think I know where it comes from.
What's your theory? Let's see if it's right.
I think it used to be the people who worked in the field.
That's a valid guess. Let me see here, because I haven't read any of these. The phrase "the peanut gallery" came from vaudeville, as the cheap seats were often where the poor black people had to sit. These seats were up high and far from the action. Over time, we started using the phrase to talk about anyone giving unwanted advice from the sidelines, even though it has a bit of a questionable past. So there you go. The peanut gallery is where the cheap seats were in vaudeville, and that's where all the black people were sitting at. So racist origins.
So what do you do? Let's think. What do we do with that, honestly? Because I would when I talk about intent, I would never have known that or even thought that can be offensive in any way. Do I stop using it?
It's a great question. I mean, reading this list on the show is now going to just have a voice in my head next time some of these things come up. I would have referred to the peanut gallery, but you're right. No one knows that that's the origin. So nobody's going to think you're being racist.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know about the peanut. I don't know about that one.
I think we can keep that, right?
Maybe we should ask somebody that it could possibly hurt,
Well, you could change it slightly.
Yeah.
And call it the circus peanut gallery.
Is that better?
Well, yeah, because circus peanuts are those little orange awful candies,
Your thing, though, Brewski, that's racist towards Oompa Loompas because they're orange. So
it's true.
But
anti-Trump.
But Oompa Loompas don't really exist, so.
What? I heard Trump talking about him in a speech the other day.
Yeah, it's all talking about Loompa Land and everything.
Yeah. Apparently, the Oompa Loompas were very upset when Hannibal Lecter died. So, And Trump might be the biggest Oompa Loompa there is. He's a giant orange guy. I mean,
he is, dude. Come on.
All right. Next thing on the list, common expressions that have racist origins. How about this one? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe. Doing that whole kind of thing.
Yeah, I've heard this one, and I don't know. Again, that's another one that I don't know. I don't think most people know that.
Nor do I think most people use this as a common expression. When was the last time you used eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
You know what? I'll tell you. Okay, I know when it was.
Okay.
I was watching.
I was at a Klan rally the other day.
No, dude, it wasn't racist when I said it, but I recently was watching The Walking Dead, and Negan was deciding who he was going to kill, and he was doing the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. He did the whole thing, and I did an impression for it of him to Rachel. So I've said that recently.
I got you. But you were channeling somebody, a bad somebody. So.
Yeah, that's right.
The last time I used it, I may have been 9 or 10 years old, because we were getting ready to play a game of kick the can.
Right.
You didn't want to be the one that had to go chasing after the can,
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's when you generally would use it as eliminating people.
Well, either that or potatoes.
Wait, what? One potato, two potato? What?
Exactly, yeah.
So anyways, like I just said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. With the original version, though, it's the word we can't say. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a N-word by the toe.
Yes.
Ooh. I didn't know that. I seriously had no idea.
I read it, but that's something they didn't teach us when we were kids. I mean, we're all about the same age. Like, no one ever taught me that.
No, but I will tell you, too, on that similar sort of topic, when we were kids, when we would sit in the circle in elementary school or whatever, we would sit Indian style. They don't call it that anymore. Now it's called crisscross applesauce style.
Yeah.
I thought it was the cross-leg.
I don't know why we need a name for it, really, but yeah, that was everyone called it sitting Indian style, but they knocked that off.
Do you guys remember giving each other and your friends Indian burns?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can't say that anymore. Yeah, I mean, and that we should have known at the time was racist. You know what I mean?
Well,
funny how things evolve.
And then there's also, remember, Indian giver.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but I will say that, during the holidays, when there are those, those big, huge brown nuts that get put out and everything like that. Yeah. There was actually an episode of the TV show Louie where his aunt was offering his daughters some nuts, and she then said, "You should try one of those," and it was called an
N-word toe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My grandmother. I mean, I remember being in her home, and she was not a racist woman, but it was terminology that they grew up with. Right. Maybe that's why these come up. You have to get rid of them, or just for generations, they'll continue. Yeah. Because she would always offer those nuts. I got these. I thought, oh my God, I do remember shitting my pants, walking out and asking my mom, what the hell was that? Right. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
But was your grandma racist in general?
No.
Right. Okay.
No.
So, to her, that's what she knew. Just what she knew those nuts to be called.
Right.
Exactly. All right. Here's another term I use often. It's a legal term, but saying that something has been grandfathered in, or there's a grandfather clause, meaning that something that the rules have changed, but because you've done it since the olden days, you're still allowed to do it. It's common in real estate, common in business.
Yep. Common. Yeah. What's wrong with it?
And you should ask Rachel, by the way, like in the law industry, that's often where I also hear it. Like, no, there's a grandfather clause that allows you to do that. So
sure.
If they stopped using it, this article says you may hear someone talking about a grandfather clause to explain why they're still using an old rule or certain situations. But did you know this actually has a racist past? It was a trick that some people used to stop African Americans from voting by saying that they could only do so if their grandfather had voted, which when black people were first given the rights, obviously no older generation have been able to. So it was a trick to stop black people from voting, saying, nope, you haven't been grandfathered in. There's no grandfather clause for you.
Wow, dude. I knew not. That's crazy, dude. I never could have imagined what could be wrong with that word. That's not an obvious one for sure.
No. And like I said, it's become a completely just legal term saying that something's been grandfathered in. And I don't know what the substitute term would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you live in perpetuity, I guess. I don't know how you would get that across, right? That's become part of the culture for better or for worse, I guess. I don't know. But it was just like in COVID, dude. I remember seeing all the houses that were going up for sale. I got told constantly, you can't refer to it as the master bedroom anymore. Okay.
I've never heard that. Because
you didn't?
Slave days, that's where the master slept?
It's where the master slept. It's the nicest bedroom. It's the master bedroom. And
I guess that makes sense. I always wondered where that term actually came from.
I always thought it was just the size of it. Like that's usually your largest bedroom, but they call it the primary. It's the primary bedroom now. It's no longer master bedroom.
Interesting. I just moved into a brand new house, and on the blueprints that was labeled master bedroom. So I'm in Nevada, though.
You are in Nevada.
Can I no longer listen to Master of Puppets by Metallica? Is that bad?
No, he's a master of puppets, dude.
Oh, okay, good.
He-Man, you're good.
Yeah, Masters of the Universe. Is He-Man resist?
Could be.
All right, how about this one? Being sold down the river. I guess now that I say it out loud, I can probably assume there's probably some racist origins. But,
probably, yeah.
But yeah,
since we're having the conversation, though, if you said that in just any normal conversation, I would never be like, oh, I wonder where that comes from. That sounds terrible.
Or going up the river. I don't know if it's got the same origins, but if you're feeling betrayed, you might say that you've been sold down the river. The phrase comes from the harsh reality of slavery, where being sold down the Mississippi River meant that you had a life of slavery ahead of you. So you were sold down the river. Now I feel guilty and bad.
You should, dude. I've never said that word.
It's not common, but yeah, being sold down the river. I mean, you're a better person than me too. So.
Yeah, you've been through some stuff that I could see why you used the phrase without knowing what it meant. But
right. Yeah. How about this? You ever bought something and feel like you got gypped?
Yeah, that's a tough one, dude. I get in arguments with Rachel about this, okay? And I shouldn't. I have no reason to argue other than I don't really say the word anymore because I know it bothers her and is going to possibly bother other people. But I didn't know it was racist to talk about gypsies. I never thought I was thinking about a gypsy, you know, like these are the kind of people they are.
Well, this is the good news. This has nothing to do with black people. So this is the first racist one that's not about African Americans.
But it's about the Roma people, the Roma people, which actually a lot of people don't remember that the Roma people were a group of people also that the Nazis rounded up and murdered as well.
Wow. I didn't know that.
They were dark-haired, and some of them had a bit of dark skin as well. And they were also travelers. They didn't have like a set home. So in the eyes of the Nazis, who were all about order and that sort of thing, then they must be worthless if they don't put down roots in one place.
Too nomadic, dude.
As with any group of people, there were some people who would use ways outside of the law to make their money, as opposed to just working. Yeah, and that's where this comes from. The whole gypped things. I was gypped out of this and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Can gypsies use that if they're doing a rap album? Is that okay for them?
I've never heard of a rapping gypsy.
More terms that are commonly used that have racist origins. There's only one time I've really ever heard this one, and I guess we'll have to test all of our hip-hop rap knowledge, which keeps coming up. But remember that song, Hip Hop Parade? Yeah. Hip Hop Parade. I don't ever hear people using that term, really, but do you guys?
Never.
Hip Hop Parade?
Yeah, the term Hip Hop Parade. Besides that song, I don't know that I've really heard that.
I mean, I used to hear it when I was a kid. Hip, hip, hooray. You hear it like, this day will not be forgotten. Hip, hip, hooray.
Oh, you're right. I read that wrong. It is hip, hip, hooray, not hip hop parade.
Okay.
That makes more sense. It's still, though, yes, unless your grandfather's celebrating something. But yeah, hip, hip, hooray. How about that? Does that sound racist?
No. I mean, we used to chant that when we were excited.
That's a celebratory thing, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Well, it is.
But it comes from the 1819 Hep Hep riots, which were anti-Semitic movements in Europe that involved the Hep targeting Jews. These riots injured many Jews and destroyed their property. Hep Hep riots is where Hip Hip Hooray comes from. Isn't that kind of screwed up? Because that was, a celebratory thing. So they must have been celebrating when they were going after the Jews?
I guess so. Yeah, so we got a dark past to this country.
And I thought, well, actually, this didn't happen in America. Those actually happened in Bavaria, which is basically Germany.
That's where they make gummy bears, dude.
That's true.
The Black Forest.
Yeah.
Yes. How about this one? I mean, I've used this. It seems harmless enough. If you see someone that you haven't seen in a long time, or you're talking on the phone or maybe messaging nowadays, you might say, "Long time no see."
Well, it's racist to or ableist to blind people.
No. Any guess though as to which country of origin "long time no see" is racist towards?
The Sahara Desert.
Again, now that I know. Wait, what? The Sahara Desert?
Yeah, no see. Long time no see.
I said,
see, that joke is so clever. Wait, right over my head.
I thought it was meaning like, I haven't seen you for a long time because it just keeps going and going. Not that there's no water. No sea. I get it. Yeah.
No water. All right.
Nick's clever. That was very good. Well, I will say long time. That there's another popular phrase. Me love you long time.
Yes,
Vietnam?
It's the same origin. This is an anti-Asian thing. Long time no see sounds friendly enough, but it's actually mocking non-native English speakers and their apparently broken English, originally aimed at Native Americans, although is later used against Chinese people. In Mandarin, for example, there's an actual phrase that translates to very long no see.
That's definitely an intent word. I mean, that's just part of English language that's used on a daily basis. Like, it's been a long time since I saw you, and
that would be the correct way to say it. Wow. Hey, it's been a long time since I've seen you. The actual phrase "long time no see." You can now hear how that's broken English, right?
Yeah, yes, 100%, 100%.
Stop being happy that you haven't seen people in a long time. Just do that.
Right. See people.
I don't want to see people. Long time no see is good. Like, okay, let's keep it that way, okay?
For most people, yeah.
Right. How about the phrase "no can do"? Sorry, no can do.
Yeah, no can do. Why?
It's another broken English thing. As a way, it was a way meant to mock Chinese immigrants to America when they would speak broken English. Apparently, in the past, people thought that hearing people struggle to learn English was pretty funny. We can definitely do better now, can't we?
Listen, I remember growing up, throughout the 80s and into the 90s, there was, especially Asian people, their language issues, trying to speak American or limitations, were mocked as in comedies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds. When they're talking about the party, and Takashi says we can serve lobster craws, and then Booger says, "What the fuck are lobster craws?"
Right. Yeah. No, it is.
Someone pointed out to me several years ago that has always made me feel like an asshole ever since, that if somebody is struggling to speak English, it means it's their second language, asshole. How many languages do you speak?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? Like, I was just in Berlin, and I told you guys that, like, Rachel and I did Duolingo to try and learn some German before we left for a couple of months. I could only imagine while I was there what I must have sounded like trying to speak their language. Like, you never think about that shit, dude. When you go, I know plenty of people that'll go into a Mexican restaurant and be like, "Gracias." Like, what do you think you sound like?
I'll have some vaginas.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I'm going to get myself canceled for saying this, but I never understand. There are certain people, I hear them on the news a lot, especially when it comes to Latinos, where they will speak normal English and they'll be like, there's a certain voting demographic, the Latinos, when they show up in mass, the Latinos will do this, this, and that. And why, when they have to use a Latino word or Spanish language word, do they feel the need to slip into an accent?
Well, that word specifically to say like you're saying, like Puerto Rico There is a proper way to say it that I think is paying homage to and respect to the language.
Why can't you just say the Latino people? I'm English. I don't have an accent. Why would I drop into an accent? If I'm saying the Russian people I don't drop into a Russian accent while I say the Russian word.
You're right. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I don't think you should be consciously affecting your accent, no matter which language you're trying to speak.
Yeah, it would be if you went to Australia and you said, "How you doing, mate?" Like you would never do that. You're 100% right.
Yeah, I was in the outback. I saw a kangaroo out there, and I thought it was very interesting. I saw a koala out there. Like you wouldn't just slip into it for certain words.
Okay, Steve, where I'm from. When I was at Viva, every time someone asked me, where are you from? I'd say Boston. They'd start going into a really bad Boston accent.
Sure.
And say all the park the car stuff. Hey, can you say this for me? Can you say that for me? Dance monkey dance.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm just like, no, stop, go away.
Yeah, but when I talk about Boston, I don't do that. I'm going to go to Boston this weekend and park my car. I wouldn't just slip into my accent all of a sudden.
No,
I'm going to go to Boston and park a car in Harvard Yard. I don't need to have an accent to it.
Yeah, it's funny, dude. I always think it's also funny. I know people that go to these Mexican food restaurants, and they know. The waitress will come in or waiter and say like, what can I get you to drink in English? And they're like, how about a cerveza? Dude, a couple of words. I want a burrito. Like you are so right that this is a white people thing.
Let's make fun of some more white people like Bostonians. And this is probably there are a lot of Irish people in Boston, right?
Sure.
The term paddy wagon.
Oh, yeah.
Stereotype against Irish people. Paddy was a common nickname for Irishmen.
I still call it that.
Is that a reference to St. Paddy's Day? Is that where the paddy?
No, it's what it is that way back when a lot of Irish guys in Boston would get drunk and would get into fights in bars, and they would have this whole thing, and they'd like throw them all in there to take them all downtown at once, as opposed to.
But dubbing it a paddy wagon as a slur against Irish was that a poor man's just easy way to reference St. Patrick's Day? All these paddies,
Yeah, but they would call Irish people paddies.
How about this term? I've certainly used this. Mumbo jumbo. It's a bunch of mumbo jumbo you're speaking.
Yes, I've used it. I use it in my life all the time.
Right. Sounds like harmless gibberish, although its origins show it's anything but. Came from the term Mama Ajambu, which is a religious figure in Mandinkan culture, and Westerners turned it into a word for something silly or meaningless, in doing so mocking that culture. I don't know what Mandinkan culture is.
That's African, actually, African culture. As a matter of fact, when Mr. T first came on the scene and he had, how his mohawk and everything like that, he actually said that was actually a cut native to Africa, and he was calling it a Mandinka.
Yeah, explain this to me, dude. I mean, why are we not? You would never go say that. This is ritualistic stuff that we're talking about here. Oh, that's crazy. That's mumbo jumbo. Like, we're more talking about your religion than we are you as a people. And they don't say that about Catholics, like, oh, that's crazy, Yeah. So is it people or is it a religion?
Well, the Mandinka people are from West Africa, primarily Senegal, Mali, Gambia, so in Guinea. So there are actual, areas.
People.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but the people. Why would they say, "Oh, I'm going to say you're acting crazy"? Well, it's because of the way you worship. So I don't know, dude. We got to be careful, I guess. Mumbo jumbo. I still don't quite understand it, but okay.
Yeah. Again, though, now that I say it out loud, I'm like, it does sort of sound like some African dialect that's being, parodied or insulted. So,
okay.
Yeah. Let's see here. We don't need to spend a bunch of time on this, but Brewski just brought this one up. Indian giver. I mean, I think that's pretty freaking obvious why that's racist, right?
Yeah. And I don't understand it, by the way.
Why someone would give a gift back or what?
No, I just thought that was reversed. Why would I call you that word? Why would I call you an Indian giver?
Because you're trying to take back something. If he gave you something and then he tried to take it back from you.
Oh, if you try to take it back from me, that's right. I haven't understood that word in so long of that's what an Indian giver was.
Yeah, so Steve gives you say an action figure, and then say he wants it back, and he says he wants his back, and he told you, I'm giving this to you, but then he demands you give it back.
So you call me an Indian giver.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
And the origins of it is Americans, white people in the early days, they thought they were receiving gifts from the Native American tribes, but the tribes believed that they were bartering. So they would give something to the settlers, and the settlers thought it was a gift, but then the Native Americans were like, no, I want that back. We're trading for something. So that's where the term Indian giver. Like, I thought you were giving this to me. Native Americans thought they were bartering, not just giving.
I don't know if it happened quite that innocently. Okay, like, I don't know that really happened. And what do we call us, dude, that raped, pillaged, and stole everything the Native American people had?
The winners. That's what
There's no word for us, dude. Make a word for us and not have it be what you just said.
I know. I have said before, like, for every country was taken over at some point. I mean, every country in this day and age was taken over by somebody. So whoever occupies the country now won the war. So, I don't know, try harder. Well,
participation trophy. My God.
These are satire jokes, people. But try to cancel us. We could use those. There. All right. So literally just the other night, I had put together an oldies playlist for Kennedy and I to have on when we're just relaxing around the house, playing Yahtzee or whatever.
Yeah.
And it referenced back to the KBSG days of the sign over here. Nick and I used to work at a Good Time Oldie station. I was very proud of that playlist, so I did send it to Nick to be like, here's what I feel were the good selections from the 50s and 60s. And one of the guys on there, Mr. Elvis Presley.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I am not a big blue suede shoes, hound dog sort of fan, but before I went to work at KBSG, I only knew Elvis from that kind of stuff. I never got into some of his other stuff, but on that playlist, I have Little Sister. I think it's a great Elvis song. Older Sister, don't you? What does that mean, by the way? Is the older sister a big whore? Little sister, don't you do what your big sister does?
Yes. Don't do it.
Yeah. Burning Love, I think is a great Elvis song.
Great song. Yeah.
Suspicious Minds, I think is a great song by Elvis.
Yep.
You like Fat Elvis, dude. That's who you like.
I love Fat Elvis.
I do too.
One of my all-time favorite Elvis songs came on the playlist the other night, and I said, boy, I really love this song, but I don't know if this song would fly nowadays. Do you know what song it is, Nick?
In the Ghetto.
Yes. In the Ghetto is a great Elvis Presley song. But yeah, that wouldn't probably fly nowadays. Ghetto was originally meant to refer to places where Jewish people were forced to live, which were often isolated from the rest of the cities. These were usually in worse conditions, as many Jewish people were in poverty. Nowadays, the word is more commonly associated with urban areas, which would be predominantly African-American communities.
I think there's different ways to use that word. I think if you use it in a derogatory way, that you shouldn't be, probably. But
think something is really ghetto of you to do?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Elvis was singing about a geographical location.
That's what I'm saying, dude, is that he was singing about a place that existed in this song, you know?
And in that day and age, it was commonly referred to, but no one calls anything a ghetto anymore.
Well, no. Not really. I mean, so I think when Elvis was singing about it though too, it wasn't ghettos like in a city like we think about. I think he was also talking about where he grew up in Mississippi.
Yes.
How there were really poor, impoverished people living in like dirt floor shacks and that sort of thing.
I have somebody I know, dude, that will used to use this phrase all the time, and it bothered me so much. And I didn't even understand it when he first said it. But like if we'd be talking about something, I would ask him, oh, where's that restaurant? And he'd be like, it's over in Browntown. And I didn't understand the correlation of what he was saying. I thought that was like a district or, a borough.
The red light district, Browntown, just
right. When I found out what he was referring to, finally, when I asked him, like, where is that? And he was like, told me, like, oh, that's where, a lot of black people live, or, it's in the black area. Like, could you never use that again to say Browntown? That is awful, dude. This is making me feel terrible, this segment.
Okay. I'm still struggling with the concept that if none of us know these are origins, because we're all mystified by this, then is it truly a racist thing to use? And I don't even know if that's the point of this article. They're not telling us to stop using it per se. They're just saying, hey, you should probably know this is where it comes from.
Right. Yeah. And like you joked about earlier, made a key point. Like, we're probably not the people to be asking, right? I mean, we should be asking the people who would be offended by these words. Should I stop saying some of this stuff?
I would be curious if we surveyed 100 black people or 100 Latinos or 100 Asians, like, would they know that these are racist, or would they only object once we point it out? And they're like, hey, wait a minute.
Well, ghetto that they might, and even then they might say, well, in what context are you using it? You know, because I mean, you could be talking about the Ghetto Boys, hip hop group, with one of the most beautiful songs in hip hop history, "My Mind Playing Tricks on Me." Give it a listen sometime. Fantastic song, it really is. Yeah. But I think they would say to you, context. And what context are you using it in? No, for sure. And like we said, some of these seem relatively obvious, Indian giver, but a lot of these, it's, you know, we've all been mystified by the fact that there's racist origins. How about this one? I say this a lot. Call a spade a spade. Oh. Yeah. Did you know the term spade has racist origins?
You know what? I've heard that, and I can't remember why. I don't say it. I don't say it. I know because it's racist. I just don't say the word, you know. Back in the 50s and all that sort of thing, you know, people would refer to black people as spades. There was that. But also there was a famous street gang in New York City called the Black Spades, actually. And it was an African-American gang. See, again, I never heard any of that stuff. Calling a spade is supposed to mean, like, let's just tell it like it is. You know, let's not call it what it is. Yeah. But be careful, because spade is also an outdated racial slur against African American people, because the spade on a deck of cards is black. What? That's not true, dude. That's bogus. Well, no, I know a spade on a card is black, but what does that have to do with it? Maybe that a spade on a card is black because of that, but that's why is that racist that a spade on a card is black? That makes no sense. That's where it came from. A spade was black, so they were trying to think of some, you know, black word. Well, spade is black, so let's start calling black people spades. Like, I get it now that they connect those dots, but obviously a deck of cards isn't racist, but they drew it from that. Spade is black, so let's call black people spades. Like, okay, I'm not defending this. I'm just telling you what the article says. Yeah, we've evolved, dude. I mean, golly, hey, that spade looks black. Let's call black people spades. I thought saying a spade is a spade was sort of a intelligent, you know, statement to make. Apparently not. You were wrong, dude. You were wrong. Now you're educated. We always say knowledge is power, so this is what we're doing, getting some knowledge. Yeah. Oh, here you go. Next on the list, master bedroom. Nice job, Nick. You were good. Well, we covered that one already. So, let's see here. Buck. The term buck. The buck stops with him. Yeah. This word comes from the slave trade. Buck originally referred to a strong young black man who slave owners traded for goods. They usually traded for things like deer skins, which some people also called bucks. So showing just how little these people valued black people to compare it to an animal skin. Yeah, that's interesting, dude. Even though it's supposed to be somehow a compliment, a young buck. You're supposed to be strong, strapping guy. Yeah, strapping young buck, yeah. They're referring to you as as an animal, so I can see why that'd be bad. Oh. And how about this one? Topsy-turvy. It's a topsy-turvy world we live in. Yeah, I can't imagine how that could be racist. Well, I'll tell you, Nick. The term comes from the character Topsy in the groundbreaking novel Uncle Tom's Cabin. Oh. Topsy was a young and mischievous black girl who never did as she was told, and now we use her name to talk about chaotic things. Topsy-turvy. I don't know where the turvy came from. Can we just use turvy then? Is that okay? Yeah, well, this is so turvy, dude. Yes. How about the term going Dutch? That's a very common thing. It's a very common first date etiquette. I believe our dating coach even told us you should usually go Dutch on the first date. Yeah, what is it? Is it racist?
I guess it's about Dutch people. It makes sense. But again, they're white people. So one of many phrases we used to talk about everyone paying for themselves when they go out, such as going Dutch or a Dutch treat. The phrase comes from a time of serious conflict between the English and the Dutch in the 17th century. English people used Dutch before any word to make it negative, such as going Dutch, saying that somebody was too cheap to pay for everyone. So going Dutch had a negative connotation.
Interesting.
I don't want to put any more even thought into that one, please. Am I hurting anyone with that?
I don't think so.
I feel like there are still white cultures we're allowed to make fun of. Can we not make fun of Italians or Irish or the Dutch? Doing a pizza pie accento, like that's still a common thing. Like whenever my son plays Mario games, Mario always starts off like, I'm a Mario. That's a white guy voicing that. It's not an Italian thing, but we still mock the Italians for that, don't we?
Yeah. Tony's Pizza, dude. Come on.
Just me?
No, I'm with you, dude. I'm 100%.
Tony Danza.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Angela.
Hey, yo.
I feel like I think we can still make fun of Irish people, but apparently not.
Sure.
The paddy wagon and things like that.
Oh, please. No one here would get all bent out of shape over it.
Yeah, but people do get bent out of shape. To do something like that would be to go off the reservation.
Oh, yeah.
Another common expression that has racist origins, which seem pretty obvious when you know about it, right?
Now, yeah. But what do they say about it?
If someone's going rogue, you would say they've gone off the reservation, which is a reference to Native Americans leaving their lands of the same name. So, we've granted Native Americans reservations in this country. So you're off the reservation. You're stepping out of your circle there, guy. Like, go back to where you're from. You're off the reservation.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that anymore. That seems hurtful to me.
Yeah.
That's like a know your place. You're out of line.
Yeah, but again, I think I have used that phrase before, and I put no thought into the connotation to it. But now I'll probably stop. And I will tell you, the other day, I really lived up to the white guy thing. I invaded an actual reservation the other day. I trespassed on Native American lands arrogantly. I saw the no trespassing sign. I didn't know it was a Native American reservation, but I was out on my dirt bike in the middle of nowhere here in Nevada. And I came across this trail that ended into a no trespassing sign, and it said something like Federal Reserve. And I thought Federal Reserve must have meant like they were protecting a plant or an animal, or it's just designated forest land or something. But oops, it was there's a bunch of Native Americans living out there. It was me, the white guy, goes driving through on my dirt bike. Like, hi everyone, I'm just riding my bike through your backyard
wherever I want.
Right. And they actually had the reservation locked in, which was another fun realization. I got to the front of this thing, and there was a locked gate. And I saw, like, am I about to get my ass kicked? Like, what did I just do here?
I'll tell you what, dude. If you spend any time driving across this country, you could learn all kinds of history and see some dark things that have happened. But one of the craziest things that I've really got to soak into is some of what happened to Native Americans and what the reservations look like. We did not do a good thing. Okay.
Well, go watch the movie Thunderheart. It's a Val Kilmer movie from the early 90s. It's and they actually filmed that at reservation in South Dakota.
Yeah, it's nice that we gave them a chunk of their land back, but with no infrastructure, resources, anything else. We just left them on their own, and poverty has flourished in most of these things.
Yeah, and now that we see them, though, but I think they're the largest people that go missing, and we just don't do anything about it at all. Native American women are constantly just go missing.
And I was not aware that was a thing until I started watching Yellowstone. That freaking show highlights that a bunch of just nefarious white people apparently go onto reservations just to rape, rob, and pillage because they know they can flee back to, U.S. soil and the laws don't apply to them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an awful thing, dude.
I did not realize that was an epidemic, that douchebag white guys go onto reservations to do terrible things. So.
Yeah. I won't use that one anymore.
The off the reservation thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That will wrap up my history of why you should feel bad as a white person for saying things that you didn't know you should feel bad about. But now will you second guess yourself? Are there some of these you'll push back on and keep using?
I don't know. Maybe one or two. I couldn't think of what they would be right now, but
there's nothing that I feel like that has to be part of my vocabulary. Like I would feel lost and not being able to express myself if I didn't use it. So
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's tricky saying like no can do or long time no see. Like, again, they're so ingrained on any non-racist level. Like, I may have to catch myself on some of these things, or eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, never realized. So, will I catch myself or not? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I go back to saying. If you come at it with a pure heart and you just realize it, dude, you're going to be fine. All right.
Yeah.
You'll get there. It takes time to unlearn some of the bullshit we learned.
Indeed, it does. And I want to say that some of these things have whole new origins and screw the history of it, but I guess that's a rather ignorant thing to say. So I'll try to be mindful of our bad history.
Yeah, I will too. What about you, Brewski? You going to be mindful of our history?
I try to do that every day, actually.
That's why I love you, dude. I know you do. This is the podcast you should love because Brewski does that shit every single day.
I try to. I can't say I'm always successful.
And you're in Boston. Is it fair to say? I was watching the Tom Brady roast the other night, and there were so many racist Boston jokes. Is that a fair title to put on Bostonians, that it's the most racist town in America?
I wouldn't say it's the most racist, but I mean, there is a lot of racism here. I mean, I could tell you some stories that I experienced just doing street team stuff for the rock station I used to work for back in the 90s.
Do you think it's disproportionate though, compared to New York City or Seattle, other cities that you've been to?
I didn't see a whole lot of racism when I lived in Seattle. But then again, I kind of lived in that little enclave. I'm up on the hill.
Yeah.
And everybody up there is young, so they're more mindful of what they say and how they say it and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I don't think of Seattle or San Francisco as being racist, but maybe that's just my perception of things. Depends who you're hanging out with, right?
But it really depends, because there are certain areas in Washington where you can go to. I mean, I've heard racist stuff when I've been down in Puyallup. Down in towards the kind of south end when I lived in Tacoma. But then again, it's like consider the source. Who's saying it.
Yeah, I'm sick of people using the phrase "redheaded stepchild." Like, on behalf of redheads, like, how did we get dubbed as the outcast of the family?
Because you're so rare, dude. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I think you got to start taking it and being like, yeah, I am a freaking gem, dude. This doesn't happen all that often. I'm one of the lucky ones.
There was a common thing in my family growing up where people would say, Steve's the redhead of the family. He's the milkman's kid, and everyone had a good laugh at that.
Including your mom?
I don't. That's a great question. I think she chuckled, to go along with the flow. But you're saying my mom's a whore that cheated and banged the milkman. Like, how is that a funny joke?
Yeah. Well, people like to joke around about that stuff, dude.
Again, think about some of the origins of some of these things. Because if you're calling your mom or your wife, you're saying that she had an affair with the milkman. That's not a very good.
All right, fellers, that'll do it. The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve, Oliver Brewski. See our social media. It's all there, looking beautiful and ready for you anytime.
That's right. TheVocalMinority.net. That's our website. And the socials. And call our complaint line, whatever you want to call it. It's 844-48-VOCAL. It's just an answering machine, people. We're not going to grill you. You can just say what you want to say and run away. You're anonymous. Yeah. It's all good.
It's all good, dude. Just go leave your comments. Use your telephone as a microphone.
Oh, okay.
All right, boys. Well, Brewski, have a good night. Steven, have a great night. And take us out, Brewski.
Later.
And we say bye-bye.
Test 1 2, test 1 2.
Stop.